And yeah, the biggest story of the week, and I think it's going to be the biggest story of the year, is those tariffs the United States of America has put on South Africa, that 30% tariff hike that we've been slapped with, directed by US President. Donald Trump. And yeah, we're trying to analyze that. We're trying to pick different elements of this conversation because it is important. I think it marks a different uncharted era when it comes to US and South Africa economic relations. But one thing that's really standing out for me, and a lot of people think probably President Cyril Ramaphosa might quietly be shifting South Africa's economic loyalty from the West to the East after those tariffs that have been slapped with, especially when it comes to key South African exports. The president says it's time we deepen trade ties with African and Asian markets. But the question is, will that really shield our fragile economy? Is this a wise pivot or a desperate gamble in a changing global order? And joining me now is Redge Nkosi, is the director and head of research for money, banking, and macroeconomics at Firstsource Money. And we'll be finding out what this shift means for ordinary South Africans, for business, and for the global alliance we've long relied on. Reg, thank you so much for chatting to us. Good morning. Welcome to Salam Media. It's been a while.
Indeed. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. It's an interesting time. Indeed, not just for this week or this month. It's indeed going to be an interesting issue for the entire year, perhaps even another year to come. It's a very exciting moment indeed.
Exciting and uncharted. But I want to get your reaction. You and I haven't spoken since, that 30% tariff hike that we've been slapped with by the United States of America. From your perspective, how significant is it for the South African economy? And just generally, where does it lead us to as an emerging market that has, long enjoyed the benefits that come with being friendly with the United States of America, a space that we're no longer in at the current moment?
Yeah, well, firstly, the tariffs are going to cause a great deal of pain to South Africa, to the economy, to the government itself, and to the people, because there's a great dependence of South Africa on the U.S. economy, and there's no doubt that Trump's stick is going to really hit hard on South Africans. And, it was well known that our dependence on Europe and the US was fragile because, it was almost a non-reciprocal trade. Under the AGOA, we didn't reciprocate much. And any person who would come and therefore, sort of disturb that arrangement would make South Africa pay greatly. Indeed, now Cyril Ramaphosa is panicking. Department of Trade and Industry and Competition, the DTI is all over trying to find a way of how to alleviate the pain that South Africa is going to face, or is now almost facing. And we've seen the drop in the export of motor vehicles to the US. It's quite dramatic, and it's likely to continue going forward. And I think South Africa is correct. Cyril Ramaphosa is correct in seeking to look east, as they put it. But it's not a new issue. I remember myself as a DTI official a while back. We used to encourage our companies here that please look east, please look east. But the only problem, though, was, and perhaps still is, that the economic might of South Africa is in the hands of European people. These European people prefer to trade with the fellow Europeans, that's in the Europe and the US. So they've always been very reluctant to face. And in some instances, of course, they would cooperate with the DTI, which has been trying to move east, knowing very well that it's important to diversify our economy. But yeah, I think it is an apt move for the president to quickly begin to show courage and face the east, which may at least sustain our economies for the coming years. I think the more rational people, I would like to think, than the errant EU and the US that we now see.
Mm. I wanna stick on that conversation because I think that's something that the president, as you mentioned, has outlined the fact that we need to look for alternative markets. The East Africa intercontinental trade agreements. How realistic is that conversation? Why, for so many years, we haven't looked for those markets? Are we only waking up now? Are we, going about things as if these markets have just been waiting for South Africa to approach them and do business with them? And only now that we're out of favor with the likes of the United States of America can we say, okay, we are now open for business with Africa, with China, with the East, with the Middle East, which is also emerging quite strongly. Are we realistically, going to see those trade agreements come into play, looking at the timelines and us trying to soften the blow of, falling out of favor with the United States?
Yeah, well, first let me correct you. It's not that we didn't try as government or as DTI, all right? We started quite a while back. I remember in 1990s, including myself, traveling very much to Asia, to sort of get our South African companies get into those markets and begin to diversify. It's not necessarily a panic move, but I think now it has taken on a rather urgent, if you want, tone by the president and the government as a whole. But whether it's going to be possible in a short space of time, that to me is the key question. And the answer is not necessarily, in the sense that first, to curb a market, it takes quite a while. To establish relationships takes quite a while. And even if you do so, it depends on who the players are already in that particular market. Supposing you're selling your car to the US at 20 Rand there, and you may not sell the same car, at the same price in the East at 20 Rand. They may say, well, 18, because you already have a few cars here. Therefore, you begin to sort of lose out. But the truth is that South Africa has been, for quite a while, trying to ensure that our economy is diversified and that it has an opportunity to look, even if it has been problematic, from the fact that the key economic players are themselves European in this economy, and therefore they've always loved to trade with Europe and to trade with the US. Now, here we are, errant economy of a European person called Trump, even imposing tariffs, against the fellow European in Europe. And what does that mean? It really disorganized the entire trading system, which South Africa itself cannot necessarily, say it can win. It's quite difficult. Nonetheless, I think time is now, and perhaps the evidence is with us, that having to rely on some single market as the US is, quite frankly, a very unwise move. And South Africa must quickly, even if it's not so easy, to begin to diversify into the continent. Africa trade must necessarily increase. Of course, we have this continental free trade agreement. It's not moving pretty fast, but I think we can actually inject a bit of steam as a consequence of this. And of course, the East, as we have said, and of course, South America, we do have. So there is space. All we have to do is to begin to negotiate carefully, because those markets have not been waiting for South Africa, as you say. And they've been there, and some people are playing in that market. So yeah, that's the game today.
No, most definitely. I want to get your thoughts on this. There's been a lot of conversations around whether or not there are politics behind these tariffs, these tariff hikes. Is it just trade and business and it being reciprocal or not, or is there more going on geopolitically when you look at South Africa and the bilateral relations we have with the United States of America?
I'm afraid it's not even economic. Absolutely not economic. South Africa's exports to the US, they're minuscule. They mean nothing for the US. Absolutely minuscule. To the extent that even if South Africa was to dry up, they would be repressed in agriculture by Peru, Chile, and other developing countries in the South. And even on motor vehicles, they could be replaced by many other manufacturers in the global south. So the tariffs imposed on South Africa, frankly, are political. One and fundamental issue open to all of us is the ANC support for Palestine, or if you want, the government support for Palestine, and the pivoting of South Africa towards China, Russia, and the BRICS. And that is what is annoying the Europeans in this country, all right, who go to the US, drum, bad news against South Africa, not knowing that they are going to be the ones who are going to be affected even worse, all right? So it is political. In one way, trying to support the Europeans here in South Africa, those who are said to have encountered genocide or some discrimination here. I know the ones, we have some 49 Europeans going to, South African Europeans going to the US under the guise of, being persecuted. So Trump is actually playing a game. South Africa has demonstrated itself on two areas, all right? Palestine support, which Trump hates, and the taking of Israel to the International Criminal Court, the ICJ, and pivoting to the east. Those are the key issues that actually, annoy Trump and the US, because they want to continue or want to ensure South Africa is under the sphere of influence, the sphere of control, and the exploitation that they have in this country continues. And that South Africa is trying to slip away from that annoys quite a lot the US and the EU as well, secretly.
One last question before I let you go. If you were advising President Ramaphosa today, what's the one thing you tell him to get right when it comes to responding to these tariffs, and also looking at a strategy to pivot towards the East, which looks to be a more, dare I say, reliable market at this point?
Firstly, is to look at the trade structure of our economy and to the US itself. Trump has imposed these tariffs on goods that are important for the productive economy of South Africa. They have not imposed tariffs on things like platinum and so on, or the minerals that are so important for them. I think what Ramaphosa will have to do is to say, Trump, please ensure that there's a balanced understanding here that while you're imposing tariffs on agriculture and not imposing tariffs on platinum and other metals that are so important for their own development in the US, they should understand that South Africa could also, come and say, well, we need to shorten or if not to lessen our export of these minerals. And that may cause a bit of a challenge temporarily for the US. Therefore, that, to me, is a negotiating tactic that South Africa must employ. Secondly, is that, within BRICS and indeed other countries, there should be an increased pressure among the leaders to ensure that there is increased trade and investment. That alone can at least sustain the economy in the short to medium term, but not too much short. Maybe medium to long term. So as South Africa is able to sustain itself and at least recoup the losses that are going to be incurred, I think that what we're perhaps incurring right now as a consequence of Trump imposing these tariffs. Those would be the two planks I would ask Ramaphosa to look at as a matter of great agency. But again, a great deal of leadership is important here. And knowing that the entire European now is almost beginning to wonder whether they should continue to support their baby Israel against the massacres that they have that are committing in Palestine, in Gaza, and so on. I think it's important that we have to take into account all these dynamics, given where we stand today.
No, most definitely. And I hope the president is listening and will take those, I think, very, very important notes that you're making. Redge, thank you so much for joining us. Always a pleasure. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks very much. Good evening. Thanks indeed.
There you go. That was Redge Nkosi, Director and Head of Research for Money banking and macroeconomics at Firstsource Money, helping us unpack South Africa's so-called pivot to the east as the U.S. tightens its grip with tariffs. South Africa is looking to should I say, rewrite the rules of engagement, trying to deepen ties across the African continent, Asia, and the Middle East also. But will this be a strategic masterstroke or a scramble for survival? What are your thoughts on that? You can engage with us. Our WhatsApp line is 061-766-0355, or you can give us a call on 011-680-0355. I think, yeah, really interesting times and uncharted waters, and only time, as always, will tell how things are going to pan out. Still listening to News and Views with me, Salalo Makwidire, and still to come this morning, we'll be looking at Mozambique on our hashtag Africa Focus feature and what's driving instability in that part of the continent. And will electricity hikes here at home spark unrest? More on that after this short break.